who knows, in 20 or so years, will anyone actually care about Left 4 Dead? Many of us are still speculating what happened to Left 4 Dead 3. Valve hit 2 home runs with the first 2 games, and yet we're still wondering where the third one is. And it's got to the point where many fans are just kind of stuck in limbo. And it's nothing really that new for Valve. We know that Valve are very scared to make third entries into their games. We've seen it with Half-Life, Team Fortress, Portal, and Left 4 Dead. And so we're still left wondering, why can't Valve just release third games? And the fact that there has been no third entries means that at this point everything is just a joke and a meme, and it just further amplifies the mystery as to why Valve just can't put the number 3 next to games. Back in 2008, Valve revolutionized cooperative multiplayer games with Left 4 Dead, with its intense action, its amazing dynamic AI with the director, and of course its emphasis on teamwork. And Left 4 Dead 2 did the exact same thing, but it added new maps, new weapons, new enemy AI, and just more of a frantic gameplay style and more refined than Left 4 Dead 1. And because of this innovation, it brought many people to the PC space so they could get their hands on Left 4 Dead. And it really helped Valve kind of establish themselves as like a powerhouse when it came to creating games. And of course there was ultimately some console ports as well, but nothing will live up to what the PC offered. Now this kind of left a space for Left 4 Dead. We haven't seen a new entry in a good couple of years, but the Left 4 Dead team, the original team, Turtle Rock Studios, decided to take things into their own hands and created a game called Back 4 Blood. And understandably, expectations were like through the roof when Back 4 Blood was announced, because it was going to be an improvement on the multiplayer and the AI and new weapons, new maps and new modes, and everything that defined the original series. And unfortunately, when Back 4 Blood did release back in 2021, the expectations were just shot down like no tomorrow. The game was riddled with bugs and performance issues and AI issues, and this didn't help Back 4 Blood's reputation at the very start. And I think one of the biggest complaints was the single player side of things, because you could barely play the game in single player. The game was fundamentally built for multiplayer, and so the game just wasn't balanced for single player, and they never actually balanced it for single player in the future to keep the game going. And so many people just found the game frustrating or just outright broken. And all of these fundamental issues, which you would have thought that they would have kind of picked up on during the development stage, ultimately left interest in Back 4 Blood dwindling like no tomorrow. And nowadays you'll often find Back 4 Blood selling on sale for just a couple of pounds, and it's just in stark contrast of Left 4 Dead as an entire series, because ultimately Back 4 Blood was meant to be the unofficial Left 4 Dead 3, but most people just find themselves now going back to the originals. Now, despite the original team, Turtle Rock Studios, trying to reclaim the magic that they once had, unfortunately Back 4 Blood just didn't fill the void that Left 4 Dead left. And there have been so many YouTube videos and online forums and discussions and petitions, and yet we still have heard nothing from Valve. And realistically, the only way that the series has kind of lived on is through modding. Modding is still just as powerful with all of Valve's titles as it was when it first came out. And so it's good to see that the modding community is still trying to at least keep Left 4 Dead ticking. The desire for a Left 4 Dead 3 is only deepened by the emotional connection that people have with this series as well. Emotional and intense moments with friends during multiplayer and memories that people have had while playing the game have only left people wanting to relive those experiences once more with a brand new entry, and we're hoping that Valve will one day fulfill that quota, but at the moment it's up to speculation. But thinking about it, why has Valve left 4 Dead 3? There are multiple factors that contribute towards this. One of those being that Valve has changed their internal structure, and so a lot of games just get left for dead on the cutting room floor. Another reason would be, as I've mentioned in my previous Valve-related videos, is that expectations are just going to be exponentially high. At this point, Left 4 Dead is such a beloved series by many PC gamers that an attempt to bring it back in a third entry might not be the best idea. We saw what Back 4 Blood did, and that was made by the original developers of Left 4 Dead, and they just couldn't hit the nail on the head. So maybe Valve is thinking, well, if they can't do it, and they're the people that made the original game, could we really pull it off? And of course, Valve has had a shift away from making video games altogether and are now just letting other people make them for their platforms instead. But Valve has shifted away from making games to shifts in technology, as we've seen with the Steam Deck and VR projects as well. And so these ventures away from game development and towards technology are most definitely the reason why Valve is reluctant to release new entries in their beloved series. And it's really weird that there is still this mystery for Left 4 Dead, but not only Left 4 Dead, but also other Valve projects as well, because who knows, in 20 or so years, will anyone actually care about Left 4 Dead? And then like Valve's avoidance of third entries, and then Back 4 Blood not doing very well at all, even though it was made by the original developers, and also a company shift towards technology and hardware rather than games is truly detrimental to Left 4 Dead entirely. And these have all really contributed to a prolonged distance between Left 4 Dead 2 and a potential Left 4 Dead 3 or even a proper successor. And despite other games trying to replicate that zombie mayhem like Killing Floor and I guess even to an extent COD Zombies as well, there has still been a yearning for a new Left 4 Dead. And so far none of them have been able to rekindle that magic that made the original series so amazing. And for now, unfortunately, it's just the gaming community have to hope that one day Valve will listen to what we want for the first time and maybe return to its roots, bringing out a brand new Left 4 Dead. But at this point, who knows? But it's definitely something that we rightfully want, but we don't necessarily deserve. And speaking of other games that deserve a third entry, I've got videos on Half-Life, Portal, and Team Fortress, so if you want to find out where their third entries have gone, then make sure to give them a look. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.